What's up, y'all? Welcome to the channel. This is your boy Amit, and today we are looking at Claude Code for absolute beginners. So, if you're just starting out with Claude Code, you're in the right spot. We are going to look at how to set it up on your machine, how to create a project, and how to actually build something with Claude Code. I am not a programmer, I am just a tinkerer like you. So, with that, let's get started. Now, to use Claude Code, you are going to need a subscription. I am on their max plan, which is $100 a month. You can start with $20 a month plan, but you will run out of limits quick if you want to build something meaningful. I think of it as your developer that's by your side 24/7, and they just launched Cowork, which will actually be in a different video. So keep that in mind when you're paying that subscription fee. Is how much would you pay for a developer if you have a ton of projects that either you want to do and publish or just tinkering around for cool stuff that you want to build for yourself. Keep that in mind. So with that, today's demo will be centered around Windows and using VS Code. I also had no clue how to use this. Now I've already installed Claude on my Mac. That's why for this video, I'm going to do it on my Windows so you can see the process from scratch. So I'm on code.claude.com and I'll drop all those links in the description. And what I'm going to do is install VS Code for Windows. You can either go with VS Code or Cursor for your installation. You click that link, it's going to bring you to VS Code. I already had it installed. So now it's installing Claude right inside my VS Code, which is a completely free software from Microsoft. It stands for Visual Studio Code. A lot of programmers use this. We are not going to write a single code today, but we're going to have Claude do the heavy work for us. So now that I have Claude installed, what I want to do is first log in with my Claude subscription. So I'm going to click this little Claude icon here. And you can see there's a few ways you can log in. You can either use the Anthropic console if you have your API keys. I already have a Claude subscription, so I'm going to use that. And now it's asking, do you want Claude to open an external website? Yes, let's do it. So we can log into our Claude account, and then we can start using Claude Code within VS Code. All right, we are all set with our Claude login. Now, once I close it, you can see I have Claude Code right here in my terminal. What we can do now is close this window right here, and we don't really need the release notes, so we can close that as well and close this as well. Now, this is your blank window, and this is where the fun begins. So first thing what I want to do is open up a folder, and I have an app in my mind that I want to build. Before I start building that, I want it in a very specific folder. You can either do Control K or Control O. So let's do Control O. And what I'm going to do is go to create a new folder in my stuff, and we'll call this Claude Projects. And let's open that folder. Now within this folder, you can add subfolders, and I would highly recommend that if you're going to create a bunch of different things using Claude Code. Or you can always create a completely net new folder. So we have our folder. Now I'm just going to click open, and that should open up our Claude Code folder. For some reason that folder wasn't opening, so let's try this again. I'm going to click on File, Open Folder, and let's create another new folder and call this one Claude Projects, and we're going to select this folder. Now when you select that new folder that you just created, you are going to be asked this question: should I trust the authors of this folder? I'm just going to say yes, go ahead and trust it. And that's it. We are inside our Claude folder using something called VS Code, Visual Studio Code, which is also known as an IDE, an integrated development environment. From here, the first thing I want to do is uncheck this show welcome page on startup. We don't need it. You can uncheck that and close this. Now that welcome page is gone. All right, as fate would have it, I ran into a bunch of errors while trying to install Claude Code. So you can see I typed Claude, nothing happened, and that's usually what works on my Mac. So I just troubleshooted it on here on the left side by chatting with Claude. Now, the difference is I have been using it in the CLI, which is the command line interface. Technically, you can just talk to Claude right here. I wanted to show you the command line interface, so I did some troubleshooting, and I had to run this command here, npm install. So that installed Claude Code within that project folder. And then on top of that, I also had to update my installation. So I did that update as well, because it says right here to update, run npm install, blah, blah, blah. Did that, it ran a bunch of updates, and then we are all set. So now when I type Claude, it said, welcome to Claude Code. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go through this and get started. So first thing is it wants to know what text style I want to choose here. So I'm going to stay in dark mode. And it's again asking how I want to connect my Claude account. So I'm going to say Claude with subscription. We're going to do that again. And again, this is a one-time thing. Once your project is all set, you don't need to come back to this. So we're just going to close this out now. All right, login is successful. Now we are ready to rock and roll. So it's giving you some security advice. Claude can make mistakes. Please be careful, etc. So we're going to say sure. We're going to use the recommended settings, and yes, I'm going to say I trust this folder. And now we are off to the races. Now before we begin, few things to note here. You are going to want to look at these shortcuts. So if I do question mark, it shows me all of the shortcuts here that I can use. And same thing with plugins. If I do a /, I can go through all of these plugins and choose the ones that I want to install on my machine. Plugins work similar to Chrome extensions. Some plugins have skills, some enable different functionality. There's a lot to choose from. I'm not going to go into the details of the plugins and shortcuts, but I would highly recommend that you go check it out. What I want to do is I want to start giving Claude instructions to build something out for me. That's what Claude Code is for. So what we can do is we can start with our first prompt. So I'm going to leave this terminal window open here. Now, if you're not seeing this terminal window, you can click this icon in the top right corner, and that will open up your terminal where you can type all of these prompts. This is similar to talking to ChatGPT. What's crazy and cool is it does all this stuff in the back end that we don't need to worry about. It does a bunch of tool calling. Everything happens in the back end. So what my idea for this app is, after I record a video, I have a workflow. My workflow includes taking the transcription of that video, feeding it to ChatGPT, then it gives me 5 to 10 titles. Then I reprompt it and I say, okay, now thank you for giving me the YouTube titles. Now give me the description. Then it does that. Then I ask it to give me YouTube tags and then thumbnail. How about I just create an app for myself that does all of that for me? So what we're going to do is we're going to prompt Claude to do all of that for me. Now, before I go any further, what I want to do is show you how to get to this spot if you close out your VS Code. Let's just close VS Code completely. Then I'm going to reopen it. Once I reopen it, I want to go to File, Open Folder, and make sure I open the correct folder, which is this one right here. I don't really care about the release notes, so we can close this. And then within this project, as I had mentioned, if you don't see your terminal, click this window here and you'll see your terminal. Now to enable Claude, you simply type Claude and that should enable Claude. Now we haven't given it any prompts yet. So before we go and start giving it prompts, one plugin that I will highly recommend, because Claude does not have memory, it does not have context, is to install Mem Claude. So before we begin, let's go search for Claude Mem. I think it's either Mem Claude or Claude Mem. Okay, this is the one. It's by the .Mac and it's called Claude Mem. Now to install this, it says right here, start a new Claude Code session in the terminal and enter the following commands. So our first one is the plugin install. So we're going to give it that. Claude will go fetch that plugin from the marketplace and install it. Now, once that plugin is installed, our next one is to actually run the installation. So first question is this for you? I'm going to say yes, it's just for me. And the plugin is installed. Now, why do we need this? What this does is it keeps your Claude memory up to date so that anytime you go back to a specific project and you ask Claude, hey, where did we leave off? It's going to tell you exactly where you left off thanks to Claude Mem. It's saying here plugins changed. Please reload Claude to use those plugins. So again, let's close this, go back and start VS Code again. and it should bring you back exactly where you left off. So we are going to run the Claude prompt again. Now Claude is back. And what I want to do is I want to give it this prompt. And the prompt is, I'd like to create an app that'll help me with my YouTube video post-production. I will give this app a transcript, and in return, I would like it to give me a title, a description, and tags that I should use. And I would like multiple titles, at least 5. Use the best practices for crafting the title, etc., etc. And I'm also saying use Google Gemini for the image generation of the thumbnail and use its API. Now it should ask me all the questions it needs in order to proceed. So I'm also going to mention that. So quick pulse check. So far we have installed VS Code. We have installed Claude Code inside VS Code. Then we ran a terminal from the folder where we wanted Claude to run. And all of that is happening inside of VS Code. And now we are giving it a prompt. And all you have to do is hit enter. Again, this is the similar chat interface that we are all used to with ChatGPT, Gemini, what have you. So now it's going to think on what it needs to do. All right, so here's the questions that we need to answer. It says, great idea. Before I start building, here are my clarification questions. What is the tech stack? I'm thinking a web app with React. Sure. So I'm just going to reply to Claude with what I think would be the right answers. Now, as I'm filling these questions out, this is great practice. If this is your first time building something, is to read all these questions and then think through the user's perspective. Let's say you're building this for end users that are going to be using this app. It is very important to think through what are some of the things that they might encounter. And if you're not sure, I would recommend maybe using a cheaper model like a Gemini or a ChatGPT to just chat through the idea to flush it out before you bring it into Claude, because you don't want to burn all your tokens just chatting with it about the app itself. I'm going to continue answering these questions and then we can continue the video. All right, so I've answered all the questions. One thing I wanted to call out here is this one right here, the input method. It's asking what should be the input method. I'm going to copy this just in case I lose it. And what I want to call out here, it's asking, will you paste the transcript directly into the app, or do you also want to support uploading a file? Why this is important for you to think is, what do you want in your MVP, your minimum viable product? If go-to-market speed matters to you, maybe for that V1, you just want copy paste, or whatever it is that you're thinking of your functionality that your app should have. Can you give up a little bit of functionality just to see that working prototype, or do you want it to be perfect? So that's a trade-off you have to think, because the more you put in here, the more tokens it's going to take, and it's also going to take time to build it and also time for you to test it. Just keep that in mind. On the left side, before I hit enter, you can see right now my project only has a settings.json file and nothing else in it. As we start building this out, Claude will automatically start adding more files to that file pane, and I have no clue what those files are. If I was a developer, I would understand them. As a tinkerer of softwares, I don't know what that means. I just know that it is required for this app to work. So right now, Claude's doing its thinking, and you can see it also used the Claude Mem skill to successfully load its memory with that skill. All right, so now comes our next set of questions. Tool use. Claude wants to search the web for Google Gemini API. Do you want to proceed? So Claude itself is trying to figure out, how do I go about with this plan? And for that, it needs to search Google, and it's asking my permission whether it should go and search Google. I'm going to say sure. So I'm just going to hit enter on my keyboard. You can do up and down arrows to change these answers if you want. Now it's saying Claude wants to search the web for this specific thing. Let's go ahead and do it. And another web search for endpoint, image, and parameter aspect ratio. Sure, all of this seem like things that I would need. So I'm just going to go ahead and say yes. So as you can see, this is using up the tokens. While we wait for Claude to work its magic, let's go to my Claude dashboard and show you what the token usage looks like. So I can go to settings, usage, and my current session, I'm about at 2% usage, which resets every 5 hours. And overall, I have use 12% of my usage, which also resets once a week. If you're on the $20 plan and if you're worried about your usage, you can also enable extra usage. And if you do enable that, what happens is if you burn through your $20, then Claude will start charging you by the usage about the number of tokens that you start consuming. Keep that in mind as you start exploring Claude Code, and maybe you want to just dip your toes in the water and test out the cheapest plan. This is also an option available to you. Let's go back to our VS Code and see what other questions Claude is asking to us. All right, do you want to allow Claude to fetch this content? It wants to fetch the Google API contents. What it's doing is trying to figure out, how do I incorporate this Google image API? Because Claude doesn't know this till it goes and surfs the web and learns what exactly we are asking it to do. Now you can also point it to a documentation folder if you have a folder on your computer with all this API knowledge or anything else that you want Claude to know about. You can always point Claude to that folder. For now, we are starting fresh. We are going to take this as if I am just going to use Claude to build an app and nothing else. I'm not going to give it any context. This is a super fresh install so that you can see how this process works. All right, now it also wants to fetch something from GitHub. Sure, we're going to continue to say yes to all of these fetches till it has a plan for us. Now, as Claude is building this, I go back to my argument about having the max plan is how much back and forth would you do with a developer if you were to have a developer build this. Now, I'm not saying Claude is going to be perfect and what you're going to get out of the box is going to be perfect, but it can at least be a minimum viable product that you can hand it over to a developer if you do have a complex idea. You can see how far you can stretch it with Claude. You can continue to iterate on it and keep adding functionality, but I would highly recommend you do it in chunks and not a full-blown app that is like 25 pages of requirements, because that's going to trip up any AI system, even the best in the world, because you cannot have a one-shot app. So we're going to continue. I'll fast forward this part. I'm going to see what other questions Claude asks me before it gives me something to build. Okay, we have our first draft here and Claude has done its thinking, and let's see how many tokens it took to do all the thinking. It did about 21,000 tokens. It used 12 tools, total of 4 minutes and 3 seconds. And now it has an implementation plan. Now you can go and read through this implementation plan, which I would highly recommend. But for the sake of time, we're just going to say, yes, let's go ahead and implement this plan. So down here, my options are, do you want to create the plan? Yeah, yes, allow all edits, or no. So I'm going to say yes and allow edits during this session. So now it's going to go create the plan, create all those folders. As you can see, folders are starting to pop up on the left here. And now we're going to start getting into the build part of this app. And you can see Claude has laid out 5 phases for this. First is the API research, which is already completed. So it says done. Next is the scaffolding, so building the actual app itself. Then it's going to get into text generation, then the thumbnail, then the front-end user interface, UI, and then finally polish the app with any error handling, any feedback, anything that I can provide it. It's going to continue to ask me questions as it goes to build this. And the first thing I need to tell it is, what about all of these key decisions? Image gen for thumbnails, not Gemini image mode, more reliable for standard image. Text results return first, thumbnail loads async, so you're not waiting. Sounds good. 7 titles suggestions, more than the minimum 5 with mixed styles. Sounds good. All API calls server side only, never exposed to browser. Love that. Now saying, want me to start building it now? Yeah, let's do it. Now what I want to show you here is this thing right here. Accept edits on. So I can toggle between this and use the Alt button on my keyboard and go through Alt M. So I can either have plan mode on or nothing, or say accept edits on. So let's now go to none of those. and go ask it to build it. My next follow-up prompt was, yes, let's build it. So it already has the plan. It already has everything it kind of needs, but it might still have questions. So let's see what our next question is. The next question is, it wants to create a directory structure and it's asking for our permission. Let's give it that permission. And you can see as soon as I gave that permission, new folders have popped up here. So this is going to continue to happen. And now it's asking if I should allow it to create this JSON file. Sure, I have no clue what it is, but let's go ahead and do it. It's going to continue to ask these questions. And if you're not sure what it means, you can always copy paste it into a cheaper model like a Gemini and ask follow-up questions before you say yes. I've already gone through this a bunch of times, so I'm going to continue to say yes, except for this one where it's saying, do you want to create an env example? This is where your environment variables will go, also known as your API keys. So eventually my Gemini API key will go in here, which Claude needs in order to create that thumbnail. So for now, I'm just going to say, yeah, go ahead and create it. And I know that later I need to go and add that API key to my env folder. So I'll show you how to do that. Next is asking if I want to create the index.js. No clue what that is. Sure, let's go and do it. Okay, next question is, do you want to create youtube.js? And .js just means JavaScript. What it's doing in there, I have no clue, but it's creating all of these JavaScript files, image gen, YouTube, description JavaScript, generate JavaScript. It's all going to have a function at the end of it. And if you go through this and you start getting sick and tired of answering those yeses, go back to when I said, how much would you pay a developer to build this for you? Our next is, do you want to create the index.html? And you can always say, yes, allow all edits during this session. I just want to show you all of these questions that are going to pop up. If you don't care about them, just say yes, allow to everything for this session. Keeping in mind that it will take your tokens regardless of whether you say yes per request or for the entire session. But I have yet to run into my token limits. I have built 4 apps in 1 week and haven't come close to hitting my token limits at the $100 plan. All right, now it's asking me if it can install this npm. Let's go ahead and say yes. So it's running its own development environment inside my folder, and it's asking me permissions, which is great because I don't want it to have carte blanche permissions to everything on my PC. Okay, let's go ahead and install those dependencies that it wants to install. So you can see here, it tried to do something, realized it was an old version, then fixed it all by itself. So we didn't have to do anything. Do you want me to create git ignore? Sure, let's do that as well. And you can see on the left side that one folder or one file that we had earlier, settings.json, has now blown up into a bunch of folders and then a bunch of files inside of those folders. And all of this from a single prompt with a bunch of clarifying questions. You can see how powerful Claude Code is, and looks like it might actually be done. It says the app is built. Here's the structure, and then it shows the structure. It says to run it, first create the .env file with your key, and then go and open this, put this in, then edit the env, to do this, start the app, do this, etc. So it's giving you the step-by-step instructions on how to run this. So first, let's go and create the .env file with our key. The thing is, I don't know how to do that. So let's just go ahead and ask it that question. My follow-up prompt is, I don't know how to create the .env file. Can you just create it for me? It says, sure, I can do that. But first, I need your Gemini API key. And it's telling me exactly where to go get it. So I am going to copy this link. Then let's go and get our API key from Gemini. I have a bunch of keys in here, so I'm going to go create a new one. If this is your first time here, you'll have to set up your account. I'm pretty sure it's free, and you can add like $5 or $10 credits in there. We're going to call this YT Claude Projects, and I'm just going to pick the Gemini API key. And now your key is created. It's right here, YT Claude Projects. I'm going to copy that, go back in here and paste it. Don't worry, I'm going to delete this key after this video, so you can try to use it, but you won't be able to. Now it's saying, do you want to create the .env. Yes, let's do that. It added this .env file here, inside of which it's going to add that API key. Security tip, you may want to regenerate this key since you have shared it in the chat. You can do so by going here, just revoke the old key, create a new one, and update the .env file. Let's actually do that so I can show you how it works. We're going to go create a new API key. So this is our new key here, and then this old one, I'm going to delete it. Okay, now we go to the .env file, and in my .env file, I'm going to move this down a bit so you can see it up here. I have the Gemini API key. I'm simply going to replace that with the new one. Once you do, you can hit this X to close it, and it's going to ask you if you want to save the changes. I'm going to say yes. You can expand this further. Okay, now it's saying, do you want to proceed? I'm going to do this. Yes, let's go ahead and do that. And make sure that you're in that same project folder. If for some reason you have X'd out of VS Code, be sure to open that same folder or this is not going to work, because all the build has happened inside of that folder of ours. It's saying, okay, it's trying to run it. It says, do you want me to make changes? Sure. Okay, so it's going to start the old process, stop the old process, start the new one. And it says, do you want to restart the dev server? Let's do that. Okay, now it's telling me the previous port is still open. Do you want me to kill the processes that were running on the previous port? And you can see it's giving it some Linux commands here to kill those processes. I said, sure, let's go ahead and do it. And now it's saying, let me fix the SDK installation. So I'm just going to continue to allow it to make these changes. And you will notice as you start working with Claude that it's kind of tries to self-correct itself, which is what I like. Okay, now it wants to edit the image and text JavaScript files. So we'll go allow it to do that. Now it's going to try to run this again. Okay, it says both servers are now running. The app is live at this local URL. So let's go ahead and open that. Perfect. Here's our app that we created, and it took us maybe 20 minutes to create this version 1 of the app. Now let's see if it works. So I need to go and find a transcript. All right, so I'm on my YouTube channel, and if you haven't done it already, please subscribe to the channel so you get notified next time I release a video. From here, let's pick one of my latest videos. And what we're going to do here is go to transcript, and let's just copy this entire transcript and see what kind of title and thumbnail we get from Claude. And maybe that might be better than what I already have. So we're going to, before I paste, it says minimum 50 characters. Okay, there wasn't a maximum, so I pasted 13,383 characters. Now we're going to go click generate. Now, while this is generating, one thing to note is you can also ask Claude that you don't want this on your local host. Maybe you want to deploy this on a server, in which case I would highly recommend using Vercel. Vercel.com, completely free to use. You can use their free bucket, and then Claude can deploy your project to a host like Vercel from where you can share it with the world. All right, so here's our title suggestions. And first one is, it says title suggestions, but I only see one. There are more suggestions in here, but it doesn't really look that good. And then here's our description. Here's the tags, and then here's the thumbnail, which looks horrible. A close-up photo is a person of a person's face. That doesn't really do anything. What it does have is this one. The title suggestion says use for thumbnails. So I'm going to click that and see if it does anything different. So now it's generating a completely different thumbnail based on that title. What I want to do is maybe have it give me a thumbnail prompt that I can put inside Google Gemini myself instead of having that part of my workflow. So that's one option. Or you can continue to tinker with Claude Code and allow it to have a different option. All right, so this is a different option. It said a professional. Looks like this is a text box that I cannot edit, but it's creating the thumbnails, which is great. Now we need to go back and iterate with Claude. I'm going to show you how to do that. And what I'm going to do is tell it that the title suggestions right now are all in one. I want 7 distinct title suggestions with a click copy to clipboard icon in front of each of those suggestions. So I have given it a prompt which says it seems to be working. However, I would like 7 different title boxes instead of a single box. Each box should have a copy to clipboard next to it. For the YouTube thumbnail generation, let's use the transcript and the description to combine it together for a winning thumbnail prompt, and also allow me free text input to generate a thumbnail. I just replaced all of my prompting that I used to do with ChatGPT and built this one-time software. And next time I want to upload my YouTube video, I can just run this on my local host, give it the prompts, and then it should just be able to do it. So now it's making changes to my files in real time, and then this will reflect in real time on my YouTube dashboard that we looked at earlier. So while this is being built, we can go back to our usage, and you can see now it has jumped from 2% to 11% usage, but that has also given us a fully functional web app that we can use for our own workflow. All right, now it's saying, do you want to override? So it's going to again ask you a bunch of questions because it's making changes to your code base. So this is where I would like to advise you to create a free GitHub account and then ask Claude to link that GitHub account with your VS Code. That way you can keep version control of your working app. Once you have your software that's at a stable state for your version 1, you might want to push that to GitHub where it will be saved, and then any future changes you can also deploy to GitHub, which is kind of a repository that saves your code file, and anytime you update your code, you can push it there, and then it saves that updated code file as well. But before you do that, I would highly recommend that you test it on your local machine like we're doing here to work out the kinks, to make sure that you give it those reprompts, explain to it what you really want it to do till you have dialed it down to that exact thing that you have that vision in your mind. I'm going to continue to allow all of these prompts to go through. Pause this video, come back when we have our updated YouTube app for review. All right, Claude says that everything has been fixed. Now we can go back to the local host, refresh it, and the changes should be in effect. So let's go back here, hit refresh. Let's see if it works. I should have that transcript already on my clipboard. Let's paste it. Same 13,383 characters. Now I should have 7 different titles, each with its own copy to clipboard icon. So I can easily do that instead of sifting through that mumbo jumbo. Doesn't look like it did that. Okay, this is still a single title. The thumbnail is being generated. Let's see if it actually uses the prompt. Didn't really do that either. Let's go back and make sure that this is the website that I should be using. Okay, it's definitely the correct link for the local host. So I'm not sure why it didn't work. And we can go back and tell Claude that it didn't work and then ask it to continue to iterate. So I'm going to give it one more try. It still looks like it didn't work. So what I'm going to do is take the title, paste that in here and say, hey, the title, this is what the title came out. It didn't work. I didn't get 7 distinct boxes. What's going on? And then you can either use Control V to paste what it had in that box, or right click in this text area that will also paste things from your clipboard. Okay, now it's going to go and do its inspection, see what's not working. I'm going to give it a few minutes, pause this video, come back once I have fixed this, and tell you if I had to do anything different. It canoodled for a few seconds and said the changes are live, hot reload. Go ahead and refresh the page and try generating again. The title should now show as 7 separate boxes. Let's give it another shot. I might have to reboot the browser or maybe try it in a different browser if this has been cached and not really working as expected. Okay, this at least shows 3 different boxes instead of 7. So we're getting somewhere. And this is the back and forth that I'm talking about that you would need to do with the developer every time you needed to make a change. Now I can just go back to my VS Code and ask Claude to do the same. Let's wait for this thumbnail to generate, which does not look good at all, but it did give me the thumbnail prompt box here, which I asked for. So what I can do is copy this entire thing and put it in Gemini and then ask it to give me a thumbnail prompt. So I said to Gemini, give me a thumbnail prompt based on the transcript below. And then we can take this, paste it into our newly created software and see if it works. And again, the idea is that you're going to continue to refine this. You're going to continue to test it, but it's possible. It's possible to build something out of nothing but a prompt and take it to that next level, to publish it to users, to connect it to Vercel, to put it in the cloud. Okay, so here's our thumbnail, much better with the prompt that we got from Gemini. So we know that the Gemini API is absolutely working. And there you have it, Claude Code for absolute beginners. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have stuck around for this long, you might as well smash that subscribe button so you get notified next time I release a video. And until next time, keep prompting.